you all for coming, and hopefully the latecomers come into the back here. We want to spread the information. These gentlemen want to spread the information. So a good evening to all of you. My name is Pamela Stewart. I'm from the League of Women Voters, Monterey County. And we're thanking also the sponsoring organizations for inviting the League of Women Voters to Monterey County here to this building and to Monterey for this candidate forum. Our point of contact for tonight is the lady who just walked up here, and that's Jane Meade Roberts. So she was the one that really set this up. I just got to come and be a loudmouth. So this is, just so that you can check that you're in the right place, candidates running for the mayor of the city of Salinas. Woo-hoo! All right. And in case you don't know, the mayor of Salinas position has a term limit on it. It is 2 years. So, in alphabetical order, the candidates are Chris Barrera, forgive me if I mess up anyone's name. Barrera, okay, got it. Dennis Donahue, Ernesto Gonzalez Garcia. So first we got to do the rules of engagement. How will this forum proceed? Because it's not a debate, it is a forum. So we're using the League of Women Voters format. So we're going to ask you all to hold your applause until the very end of the forum, and then you can be very loudly cheering for your candidate. This will allow more time for them to answer your questions, which are coming up here. And because applause might take a whole minute if you got excited. So instead, we can answer several questions. So we need to preserve the respectful atmosphere. Campaign literature, other paraphernalia, balloons, buttons, hats, and shirts may not be handed out at arrival. At departure, yes. Candidate supporters may wear buttons and campaign clothing, but no placards or signs, balloons, things like that. Campaign literature can be placed on the table outside this entrance here, as well as your posters and whatnot. It just needs to be outside of this room. Now, we want to maintain a very respectful tone, and your candidates appreciate your attendance. At the end of the forum, you can give all the candidates a rousing applause for their efforts and for coming out tonight. This forum is videoed and by the League of Women Voters, Monterey County, and will be placed on our website for future viewing. So if someone couldn't make it and want to see what the candidates have to say tonight and the questions that were asked, you can get that URL. We'll get it to you. So, the candidates have agreed to the following rules of order to ensure balanced equal time for each and enable us to maximize the number of questions we ask. The order of speaking and sitting was established by a drawing, random. The order will rotate for all the questions, and the candidate first at the opening statement will speak last at the closing statement. Opening statements are 2 minutes each person. And we please ask you to spend your time presenting your ideas. And no need to thank any sponsors, because you only have 2 minutes. Thank them later. I will then pose questions to the candidate, first from the written questions from you. They will take turns answering first. Each answer will be no longer than 90 seconds. So a little over a minute. And we have a timer sitting up here in front, be waving his card. Candidates will rotate, responding first. After the last questions, the candidates will then have another 2 minutes for closing statements. And the candidate who was first will move to last.
So welcome, my name is Chris Barrera, and I'm running for Mayor of Salinas. I am a lifelong resident of Salinas. I'm 56 years old. I have 2 grown boys and 2 grandchildren. I am running because I care deeply about my city, the residents, and the businesses. I was born here, my kids were born here, my parents were born here, and one of my main goals is improving Salinas services for its residents and small businesses. I am a real estate agent, business owner, and my volunteer work consists of, I'm a president of a civil rights organization, I'm an ALT member, I am a Rotarian, and also I serve on a lot of boards and commissions, mainly Measure G and Measure X. And both of those provide monies for our infrastructure. Some of the top things on my priority list are public safety, streets, sidewalks, and potholes that affect us all, homelessness, transparency, and accountability, and economic development. I think that we all need to work together, and I think we need a mayor in the mayor's office that's going to represent all residents of Salinas. And and another thing is the quality of life for all residents. So it's my duty to be a strong leader for the city council and make everybody work together. So thank you very much.
How do you want to shape Salinas' future? I believe that's the most important question facing the next mayor of Salinas. And right now, I do not think the city is in a position to meet the hopes and expectations of the community. And I want to change that. I offer 6 years of mayoral experience, leadership, and results that are still relevant today. And at a time when the city is in transition, as a new city manager, my experience and ability to hit the ground running at City Hall is important. Equally important is that I understand that moving Salinas forward doesn't require just knowledge of City Hall, but also Sacramento, Washington, and the private sector. I will bring a current set of state, national, and global relationships to work on expanding our local economy. I also understand that the mayor's office does not belong to the occupant, but rather the entire community. One of the great privileges of being the mayor is getting to know the entire city. I remain committed to taking the mayor's office to all of Salinas, its events, its churches, its schools, its neighborhood meetings. It is your office, and it would be an honor to serve Salinas again. Thank you.
Let me start by saying that when I first started working, I was about 6 years old. I started picking cotton in Texas. At that time, there were no child labor laws. So I know what work is about. Like many of you that are here, and maybe their parents, worked in, like I said, picking cotton, picking oranges, picking potatoes, selling newspapers, going to the bars when I was 8 or 9 to shine shoes, trying to help a family of 10, 6 brothers and 4 sisters. So I knew what growing up with my mom and my dad with a 2nd and 3rd grade education was. So it was difficult, and I was the second of the eldest, and my eldest brother, he had, at 15 was out there in the streets with gangs, and so I had to be kind of like the eldest person, and my dad used to go California, Florida, different states to work in agriculture to help. I had to kind of be like the father, being the eldest at home. So I learned about it. Then we went to California to pick strawberries and work out in the fields. So we came, pick strawberries. I met my wife of 45 years now. I have 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls, and 4 grandchildren. But I went to continue to Hartnell, got my teaching credential, and I became a teacher and a vice principal. I worked at the district level on state and federal programs. And then I retired young at 57, 58, but I still continue to work at the schools as a long-term staff.
There are many empty storefronts all along South Main Street, specifically south of
Acacia?
What are your thoughts about bringing and keeping segments of Main Street back to life?
Well, beyond the obvious, I'm in favor of it. You know, I think when you think about economic development, it's easy to think about the big picture, but we also really have to be mindful of what's here already and how we can support business districts. And Main Street was being mentioned, and it is terrific to see Valley Center beginning to spring back to life with a lot of new businesses moving in there. So I think that is terrific. Obviously, I have the Salinas City Center. That's right. I need to look at you. Supporting the local business districts, whether it's the Suda District or Salinas City Center, is terrific. But I also think we need to look at the North Range Business District. There's some terrific things. Look like they're beginning to happen at the mall, and that's helpful. But you know, at the end of the day, small business, retail revitalization really flows from how healthy is the overall economy. That business base needs to be strong, and when that happens, we do see more retail activity and the type of services that we can all appreciate. You got my attention in 15 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe that one of the pieces is not just about, for me, in my perspective, just about bringing business to the main streets. I think you can see that there's other places that are close throughout the city. And I think in terms of revitalization, I think we do need to focus on some of the other areas, including Main Street. I know that some of the pieces in place right now, I know that one of the persons who's running for president said that that individual would bring in, you know, $50,000 grants to small businesses instead of the $5,000 grants that they have. So I think that we need to number one, look at that, but the reality is that we need to figure out whether it's in Main Street or wherever that is, that we try to get some other businesses. And by communicating with those individuals outside of the system, how do we advertise that outside, not just with the local, but whether we use through newspapers or whether it's with the media, electronic, whatever that may be. Obviously, the big groups is the billion-dollar companies, is the growers. So we need to look at that and how that comes into play, because it is a more than billion-dollar company. And how do we bring in those players into play to try to help with different areas? Thank you.
South Main Street, that's on my walking path every morning. I'm walking there at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I see all the vacant buildings, and wow, there's a lot of vacancies. I receive a lot of phone calls from business owners that are having problems, you know, with permits, with a wide variety of issues, and I do my best to assist those business owners. But the fact of the matter is, right now, Salinas is known as not a business-friendly city, you know, if you could believe it or not. But I am committed to working with all businesses from all parts of the city and meeting with them on the regular. When a few years ago, all businesses over on Navajo Strip and Alvin Square, we were meeting with them and created a lot of great relationships. So when it comes to businesses, bringing in businesses and current businesses, I think it's our duty to make them feel welcome, part of the city, and not make them feel like they have to jump through so many hoops like it is right now.
The council will vote on rent stabilization ordinances to help the poorest residents in Salinas. Do you support this?
Yes, a very simple answer is yes, I do. I think it is very important that we have some type of rent stabilization. I know that the council just, I believe, just passed some type of ordinance with a 2.5 or 2.9% increase, but the reality is that in Monterey, well, California, but in Monterey County, do as much as they can to try to help at least the people in the most need. Obviously, there's got to be some type of balance. Because the owners of these different homes or apartments are going to want to make sure that they get the best dollar out of their rentals, especially if they are spending a lot of for maintenance and things like that. But in terms of supporting it, I do support it, and I don't think we should wait until the different individuals come to the table and say we all agree on it, because then you're never going to be able to pass a rent stabilization in terms of who you want to be in the future.
Yes, so as far as rental stabilization, yes, I am for rental stabilization. I am a real estate agent, so I deal with a lot of owners and property managers. And the fact of the matter is, right now, well, before it was 10%, the rents could be raised 10% on everybody. And the city council just lowered it down to 2.75%. Now, I've heard conversations between owners and property managers that when they're talking about raising rents, they raise them because they can. And that includes seniors, people on fixed incomes, average working people, farm workers, and I don't think that that is right to do. Just because they can, sometimes they shouldn't. And I know that being a property owner, it's expensive, but there has to be a happy medium. There has to be some kind of balance. And so I am in favor of rental stabilization, but everything needs to be, a compromise. Okay.
I have some concerns about the proposal as I currently understand it. Having said that, and knowing the large percentage of renters in the community, I recognize there's a sincere desire to try and find that balance. I wish we had found an agreement that everybody could come to the table on. I do appreciate hearing that some of the council members said, hey, let's move forward and let's review it at some point down the road, whether that's a year. And so I think that's important. At the end of the day, what ultimately solves this problem is more housing supply. The Monterey MBET had a big forum on Friday, and a very noted nationally renowned economist said, hey, one of the reasons this area has a difficult time creating more economic opportunity is housing. So we need more housing. I recognize the stabilization is going to move forward, but I think it is important that there's an agreement. Hey, let's take a look at this. Also, the city itself has expressed some concerns about what's the administrative cost. Can we do it? So I recognize that it's likely to pass, but I like the review process built in.
So what is your number one economic development priority to increase jobs and revenue? Please be specific. With that, what is your position on the proposed Amazon warehouse?
So my first priority regarding the economic priority would be to try and make Salinas into a business-friendly city. By doing that, you attract more businesses, more revenue, and if you shake things up and not make everything so difficult for businesses start staying.
Amen, hallelujah.
Yes, thank you. And also the Amazon warehouse, the process, how that happened, I'm totally against that. And there was no transparency, no accountability. And really, they are going to provide a lot of jobs, but these jobs are $18, $20 an hour jobs. I just hope that, and from what I understand, it's a done deal, so I just hope that Amazon contributes to the street sidewalks on potholes on Abbott Street and on Harkins, and they should be held accountable. They should be held accountable to take care of our roads as well. Thank you.
Since you put it in terms of what's your number one priority, we need to keep continuing down the road of leveraging the fact not only are we the the salad bowl of the world. We are one of the global hotspots of ag tech throughout the world. The world looks to Salinas. And if you take a look, and again, I mentioned MDEP, a lot of the economic development diversification everybody's talking about, whether it's dual defense opportunities, whether it's advanced avionics, whether it's air mobility or aquaculture, they still all point to let's leverage our ag base. So, and I can assure you the entire state, country, and the world is looking at ag tech. So that is a global movement. And so not only do we need to grow vegetables, it is an opportunity to grow wages and bring in higher paying jobs. So I think that would be my priority. Relative to Amazon, I think we all share some concerns about, well, how did that happen? But having said that, they are here. And it is an opportunity, I believe, to further economic diversification. And I do think it's important. And I believe, as I understand it, they will be contributing to the infrastructure, the infill, and it's certainly appropriate to have a community benefit conversation. But if you will recall, once upon a time, we had Spreckles, Peter Paul, Smuckers, Nestle's, a very active Firestone. So we've had a lot of transportation. We are a logistics hub already. So this isn't new per se. So we make the best of it.
I support the issue that Amazon is coming to Salinas. It's, I guess, if we're there, for a fact, I don't know, because I'm not there to understand in terms of the facts of, are they going to be getting paid $18 an hour or $19 an hour? And so I don't know as a fact. It's possible. But at the same time, working in the educational system, we felt that what the facts are in front of you. And so if I would say, if they're going to be paying $18 or $17 or $18 or $19, I said maybe that was a poor decision. But if they're going to pay more, $25, $30 an hour, then it was a good decision. But I don't have in front of me what the facts are to look at, just like we look at each individual student, to determine what that student needs. So anyways, that's my perception of that. The other one, in terms of economic development and growth, I think more important is, what is it that we're going to do? What is it that the business are going to do to pay the people who make a living, whether they work for the city or whether they work for the county? How do we increase the pay of the people who are earning the least? Because if we're able to give those individuals higher pay, then maybe economic development might help as we move forward. It's about paying for those that make the least.
Okay. What will you do to promote heritage tourism in Salinas?
Oh, that's a great question, and tourism is actually an opportunity for Salinas. So that's right. Well, you asked the question in such a compelling manner. I really am a big fan of what's going on at the train station and the Heritage Park group that is working with the railroad station, the first mayor's house. We have a great opportunity as the train comes into Salinas that could really be a gathering spot. My friend Sam Farley likes to talk about that the train station could be the new airport because that connectivity that it's going to create with the Bay Area in terms of bringing people in here, supporting our downtown, being a stopping off point to head to the valley. Tourism is a great opportunity, and our history, which is on display at the Welcome Center, First Mayor's House, etc., really offers a really unique opportunity. And I'm also a big fan of the National Steinbeck Center. I think that's one of Monterey County's most underutilized assets. So heritage tourism is a really unique opportunity for this city and county to tell its story even better and expand our tax base. Because when people come here, they often stay overnight and spend money. And we like that. Taxing folks for things they already want to do.
I think that one of the first pieces that I will do is go and see and ask for a presentation in terms of what particular policies, what particular regulations we have at the city level and find out what the city and the council has been doing as far as that particular issue. Because, you know, I can tell you these are some of the things that I will do, but it goes back again to identifying what the issue is, what has been done, what is being done, is there money being placed there, are there grants available, and what it is that we can further apply within the city or the state or the federal government, and then from there find out if we can speak to the elected officials at the state or federal level and say, can we apply for some of the funds, because this is the intention that we want to do. But I will start from identifying where we're at, going to those individuals, and then taking it from there. And so that's how I would approach it, because I can tell you this is what I would do, but what if it already has been done or is in the process?
So the Heritage Center, I think we need to take advantage of every part of Salinas possible. That's a stopping ground. I've been in there, there's a lot of history in there. I think it's pretty awesome. The train station, the light rail. What I would do, I would take it upon myself to go in there and do commercials in there, advertise it, you know, let more people know about it, and go on social media, trying my best to get people there. And then once they're there, they walk across the street into Old Town, go to the Bldg Center, hopefully spend the night here in Salinas and have dinner in Salinas. And all of that creates more revenue for Salinas. So I think that we should take advantage of every opportunity we have here.
Given the city resources and the amount of work our streets and sidewalks need, how would you approach and solve this problem?
Well, I think my approach is, you know, and it's important to be clear with the community, and this is one of the things I was talking about in terms of not meeting hopes and expectations. The simple fact is, if you do a back-of-the-napkin calculation when it comes to streets, sidewalks, potholes, facilities, we may be close to $1 billion in arrears. And in terms of dollars and available personnel to get on top of that, they're simply not there to move fast enough. One of the things you have to be mindful of when you take a look at that particular challenge is working with the state, working with the feds, but those are unpredictable resources, but they have to be explored. But I also think we need to begin to think differently and strategically and more regionally. You know, how can we take advantage of the fact that we are a significant logistics center at a time the world is interested in food security? I think former city manager in Monterey dropped some interesting breadcrumbs when trying to save MPS during a BRAC closure. How could the city work with the military to cut costs? So working differently, expanding the jurisdictions we might work with. And in fact, there are things called mirror grants, military installation resiliency review grants, that we could work with the county and Seaside, because housing falls under the purview of those grants, because if we can't house the personnel we need to be at MPS and DLI, that's a problem.
This year I'm the chair of Measure G, and Measure G brings in $30 million for public safety, street sidewalks and potholes, and programs for youth and seniors. And so I would keep on working on creating more funds out of that $30 million for our streets, potholes, and sidewalks. Also, during COVID, we received some ARPA money, so I would continue using some of that ARPA money to keep all the great work that's being done around Salinas right now. Right now, Salinas doesn't have enough employees to do the work, so I think that we need to think outside the box, maybe contract some of it out to try and catch up, because there's, you know, this issue has been ignored for decades and decades and decades. That's why our streets, sidewalks, and potholes are in such a bad, big mess, pretty much. And also, I would want to hire some grant writers specifically for these grants, because right now, Salinas really doesn't have a grant writer specifically for these issues. Thank you.
I agree with Mr. Rivera and Mr. Donahue that some of this work has been ignored for whatever reason that is. That throughout the city where we have the need for repair as far as sidewalks, as far as roads, etc. I think part of the problem is that when we are building, we are now telling the developers what type of tree should be planted in those particular areas. And so as we go into the future of development, we really need to say, what kind of trees should really go in there where the root is not hopefully going to break as many sidewalks, and at least you take care of it into the future. And so that's one. I think that, again, it goes back to looking at what the city's doing, what budget there is, what is the council saying, what is being expanded. They create a plan, whether it's 3, 5, 10 years into the future, as to how much money is going to spend, who's going to be in charge of that, and how are we going to be monitoring it as we move forward. Because I think that's the way to go. And it's important because a lot of people, fall and purchase.
What have you done in your professional or personal experience that can demonstrate your commitment to racial and gender equality?
Well, in the last 9 years, I've been the president of a civil rights organization, so I mean, right there, that says it all. People call for help on a wide variety of issues, and we take the time to help each and every person. Scholarships, we fundraise year-round to award graduating seniors from all 9 high schools scholarships to go into higher education. This year we gave out 76, worth over $45,000. So I'm committed to helping everyone, and I want to take that leadership to the mayor's office.
Well, I had the privilege of serving as the mayor of Salinas for 6 years. And I think by all accounts, I know whether folks agreed or disagreed with me, I think they were very comfortable with that I took the mayor into all of Salinas. And I was a little slow on the uptake. It took me a long time to figure out what LOL was. But I got called an acronym that I like, MOAS, the mayor of all Salinas. So I would say my mayoral experience. But the other thing I would also say, and working as I have in the ag tech space, it's a global game. I deal with folks all over the world, whether I've been a grower in Mexico, Florida, Quebec, Okinawa. I've worked all over the world, and I'm focused on who folks are, how we can do business together, and then I would also just simply say that my personal background, having been involved with the Chamber of Commerce, the National Steinbeck Center, various school boards, a number of which are faith-based. I'm pretty posted on the golden rule, and so I think the combination of my civic life, my political life, and my business life all speak to that question.
I guess one of the things as an educator, as an administrator in my professional life, we always have to look at each individual student. We need to look at each individual students where they're at and what type of help they need, and then we try to move forward as much as we can, reassess them, and then go back and try to find out what their strengths and weaknesses are. So I've always been there. I've always been involved with, when I was new supervisor, when I was instructional aide, when I was a long-term substitute, when I was a teacher. I've always worked in those particular areas. But more important, we were involved with not many, a group of people that try to change the systems of elections using the Voting Rights Act of 1965 with the late attorney Joaquin Avila to try to change the systems so that the community would be able to have an opportunity to elect a candidate of choice. And a candidate choice didn't mean that you had to be Latino to be elected by the Latino community, or you had to be whatever other ethnicity. So basically, one of the big pieces I know I've been involved in that case, I will look at federal and state policies and make sure that they're being implemented through policy at the city level, and try to ensure that those are being followed, to try to help, at least for me, the people who are at risk.
How do you plan to engage with the youth council? Do you have a specific project youth should undertake?
Well, I think the first point of engagement would be what's on the youth council's mind and what are they most interested in. I think you start from there. It's always important to listen to the community in any, for lack of a better word, any constituency. So I would certainly want to know what's on their mind if I have the privilege of being reelected. What's the starting point? I think one of the things that I think young people are very interested. One of the things I'm always struck by Salinas is that our young people, by and large, want to be here, want to believe they have a future here, and I think that's an important conversation. So I think one of the things I would be focused on is education and the type of opportunities that may create for them. The other thing is, I think it is important to listen to young people in terms of quality of life. I know there's a lot of back and forth about bicyclists in the city these days. On the other hand, and so I understand the challenge that represents. On the other hand, maybe we need to be looking at a bike park. So young people can provide solutions that perhaps we haven't thought of. So I think the important thing is to engage and listen and see what's on their mind and how the city can support that, and how the mayor's office can support that.
I think that one of the big pieces is to go back and look to see what it is that they're doing at this time and what plans they have, because I'm assuming that if they've been there, they have some ideas or plans as to how they are moving forward or want to move forward. But I think it goes beyond just the youth council, because that's a very small world of the universe. And so, like for example, when I was in the high school board for 9-10 years, the Salinas High School Board, one of the big pieces that I asked was for the district to look at the possibility of having a community service hours, because I knew that other private institutions had community services. So I brought that forth to the Salinas High School District, because I felt that if students were involved in the process of helping the community, then they would be able to learn some things whether it was a business or school. So I brought that idea forward as far as the high school. So I think we have to go beyond what the council is saying. I think we have to look at other areas, whether we have students at the high school level, or junior high level, or elementary level, because we have councils in different places, student councils, that it would be important whether you bring all of those individuals together to try to bring those ideas forward.
So I've been engaged with youth for the last 10 years with our scholarship program. I've been an advisor at Everett Alvarez High School with the Interact Club. Been a positive role model. As your mayor, I will be visiting all the high schools, giving them updates of what's going on in the city and any opportunities that they may have at the city level. I'm very big on giving out community hours. We have a lot of events and programs that our youth can take care of. And one thing about me, I like bringing people to the table. We need people from the community, and that includes our youth to the table, because at the end of the day, they're our future leaders. And I think that's extremely important in the mayor's office.
Who is funding your campaign, and what is the motivation or expectation from these folks?
I believe in campaign finance reform, and very few people talk about campaign finance reform, but what happens. So to answer that, one person is spending my campaign, and that's myself. I'm spending less than $2,000 on this particular campaign because I truly believe that we need to try to change the system. And how do you change the systems? You have to be able to understand them and be able to look at them and then be able to try to change them. So as far as if I truly believe on something, then I have to really walk the talk. So I'm spending less than $2,000 on my campaign. Nobody else is giving me a penny. So if those who vote for me, and maybe I may not end up winning, I'm going to be representing those individuals because I have always fought for the underdog. And so I'm not going to owe anything to anybody other than to the people that I believe are important to represent, the people that make the least in the community, the people, the union workers that we always say, let's keep the pay raises the same. And that's ridiculous. Somebody makes 4,000, somebody makes 1,000. You multiply that every year, and what happens? So $0 from myself, about $100.
Who's funding my campaign? The community is funding my campaign. I have a lot of $100 donations, some $20, some $10. The Sandman donated $5 to my campaign, and every little bit helps. Almost all unions have endorsed me and donated to my campaign because they represent the working family. I'm a 30-year union worker, 20 years with the UFCW and 10 years with the plumbers, Local 62 in Castroville. So I strongly believe in union work. We represent better working conditions, healthcare, retirement, what our community is built on. And so I'm very proud of where my money comes from. And I don't take any corporate outside interest money, and that's what I'm going to do.
Ernesto?
Pretty well.
Anyway, I'm generally I run for election a number of times. My supporters are fairly consistent. I'm supported by the business community, and I'm comfortable with that. And I'm comfortable with that because I am pro-business. I think the model of Salinas moving forward has really very much been the private sector and the nonprofit sector moving the community forward. That's our business model. Where there's business prosperity, there's typically generosity, whether it's in the nonprofits and that sort of thing. And really the city's role, I think, is to be very supportive of that. So a lot of my funding does come from the business community. I'm okay with that, and no one's ever asked me for a thing. They're simply interested in somebody who they think is balanced, fair-minded, and will represent the entire community and think about the overall interests of the community. But the direct answer to your question is the largest percentage of my funding comes from the business community.
Where are we with regards to control of gangs and street crime?
Compared to many years ago when we had over 40 homicides, I think that the murder rate is down dramatically. Our police department has done a great job. The community has done a great job, and hopefully, knock on wood, that it keeps on going in that direction. I come from a law enforcement family. My dad was a retired deputy sheriff. My aunt's stepdad used to be the assistant police chief here in Salinas. My mom used to work at the police department and City Hall. And so I realized that we need more officers. We need more motorcycle officers. And I think that we need to continue to create a positive atmosphere between the police department and the community to continue to keep that crime rate down.
As far as crime, as far as I live here in Salinas, we came out here from Texas in '79, we've always had those highs and lows as people murder others, and then crime goes up in terms of the murders, then it goes down, and then it goes back up. So we've always had those type of swings. However, it's very important that we continue to try to educate the students at the different levels, whether it be elementary, junior highs, or high schools. So a lot of times students are bored, and if parents are not listening to these kids, well, they're going to go listen to the gang members, and they're going to be attracted. So like you said, in prison, we have 80% of illiterate prisoners and 20% of highly intelligent that are the leaders of the media or the Mexican mafia. So one of the things that we need to do as far as police officers is we need more police officers, but how do you change the system? How do you change the institutionalized ways of things that are there? Can we change the system so that we can hire more individuals and try to, within the federal and state law, so that we are able to hire more people and maybe hire local instead of hiring so much from outside people, because people come and go. Anyways, but changing the institutionalized system.
I was one of the co-founders of CASP when we really had to deal with the gang issue. And we understood that that was going to take time. And so it is good to see that the manifestation of gang problems that we were most concerned about, homicides, that those numbers are down. But frankly, I don't think we can ever take that for granted. So I think we still have to keep our eye out on the ball in terms of gangs. That said, we are in a dangerously low position in terms of number of officers. We're budgeted for 159. The needle right now, 129, 130, everything we've talked to. Somebody who came into town who used to be in the police department in the 1980s. In 1988, 127 officers. 2024, 129 officers. We're not where we need to be. Trust me when I tell you that every team knows that. Now, having said that, I like the definition of the new police building, police services. We know that the shortage of officers leads to a lack of ability to respond to much more consistently other than emergency calls. And so in order to improve our quality of life, we are concerned about traffic, whether it's sideshows, people racing through neighborhoods. We've had 5 fatalities on our streets. We need traffic, we need violence suppression, we need a homeless outreach team. So we do need more officers. It's good the gang thing is better. We cannot take that for granted, and we need more officers to address the quality of life issues that pertain to police services.
What are your thoughts about dealing with unhoused residents of our city?
Well, a couple of things. A lot of people are doing terrific work, yet the problem persists. It's one of the immediate issues, obviously, has been the Project Home Key and the Shangri-La issue, but I think the basic approach of how housing first philosophy makes sense. The collaboration with the county has gone well, but we do need to shore up the basic strategy. That said, one of the things I think we ought to be looking at is we need to be concerned about those who are homeless themselves, and it's like peeling an onion. There are a lot of different layers, whether it's veterans, substance abuse, mental health, those, or situational housing. You really kind of have to take them one by one. One of the things that I've given a lot of thought about in terms of the homeless situation, the housing first is good, shelter is good, services are good, but then what? And so I think we do need to be giving some additional thought to how do we reach out to the private sector or work with more programs like the Bridge that create a career path. So once you receive treatment and you have, that there'll be some opportunities. So I would want to look at how we can develop some more opportunities in the private sector for the folks who are in the system. And then the other thing is just very frankly, we're going to have a big facility conversation, and that has to be explored with the county and the state.
Anyways, thank you. Yeah, there's guess that depends on the definition of homeless, because I know that, for example, at the school level, those individuals who are renting a room, or if they're renting a garage, in the school system, all those individuals are considered homeless. If they're not the actual people who are on the lease or the rental agreement. So we have that whole bunch of individuals that qualify under the McKean-Bento Act as homeless. Then we deal with, as some of my colleagues was mentioning, in terms of those individuals that want to or not want to go by the bylaws. I have one of my nephews that's homeless, and when I say that if they give you money, why don't you want to go and rent an apartment? He said, well, because then I have to live with somebody else that I don't know who they are. And some of them, they want to just live their own life, and then actually you have a whole bunch of levels of homelessness. But I think it's important that we look at, like for example, in terms of the kind of wages, unfortunately, for whatever reason, whether people die or they lose a job, they don't make enough money. They've got a lot of different people. So we got to look at other systems like maybe buildings, tiny homes, etc.
The homeless issue, I think Salinas needs to stop wasting money doing sweeps. We need to waste $1.3 million per year on sweeps. And when they do a sweep, they go in, they throw everything away. That includes the homeless wallets, glasses, meds, everything. So after the sweep, the homeless person's still there, but now that person's in a worse off situation. So what's the answer? I think that we should be using that 1.4 million into something positive, like tiny homes. You know, the city owns a lot of land all over the place. Let's give them an acre. They're always saying we have no place to go. Give them a place to go, with the condition of rules and regulations, with all the resources, mental health issues, programs, and toilets and showers and resources. I think that the Project Home Key needs to be taken care of so we can move into a positive direction with those 3 hotels. And the first thing I would do, and you're not going to believe this, the city of Salinas doesn't even have a homeless committee. So I think that, well, that would be one of my first things, is creating this homeless committee and bringing people to the table. And yes, some homeless people will be on this committee. So that's what I think about the homeless issue.
So prostitution on Kern, and is weekend traffic, and the grinding traffic to a halt.
Prostitution on Kern Street. I went to church Sunday morning at New Hope Baptist Church. Before I walked in, there were two young ladies on the street, and that was about 11 o'clock-ish. When I got out at 1:30, there was 25 prostitutes down the street, and traffic was like this. I think it's an embarrassment to have prostitution in our neighborhoods, in front of kids. I've gone on ride-alongs with the chief of police, with Roberto, when he was here, and I couldn't believe it. Prostitution's always been here. It used to be in Chinatown, then it was on commission, and now it's in the neighborhoods. They even work when families are having barbecues in the front yard. The kids are outside. You can't tell me that this would be going on in other parts of the city. And when I saw all this traffic, there was an officer that came up, turned his lights on. I'm hurrying 30 seconds. Turned his lights on. He just went in between the traffic, blocked off the street, and everybody left. I think that there needs to be more of that. I was talking to the officer, and he was saying there are solutions, just exactly what I did right now. And then everybody left. But the problem is we don't have enough officers to constantly put 1 or 2 officers there entirely. I really feel bad for that community, and I will be advocating for them when I become mayor.
This is very much a resource issue in terms of the police's ability to work on it. We have to work the undercover deal differently, so that is a resource issue. Obviously, we want the police to do what they can. My conversations with the police, basically the strategy is environmental design, what can you do in terms of whether that's lighting, and then collaboration with property owners. It is a difficult problem. Resources are part of it, and frankly, I think it is something that the mayor will have to exercise the office with the council and indeed with the county, because I know the supervisors don't feel any better about this. We've got to make it clear to Sacramento that local communities need to have the ability to get tougher on this issue.
First, the issue of traffic. I guess for most of us know that traffic is in a particular area. It's, during the day, in the mornings, in the afternoon. We have a lot of traffic in many places. It's Salinas, and it subsides for a while. But there's an in and out in there that anybody's gone there. There's a large amount of traffic that goes to those particular areas. I don't necessarily think it's there, the cars are there necessarily to see prostitutes they can pick up. It just, happens. I think that we need to look, again, going back to what is the city doing? Where are they at? What policies do they have? Are those policies being implemented? If they're not implemented, why not? This is an issue of money, and it's an issue of police. Then you go back to say, okay, what's the system of hiring more police officers? Can you change that system so that therefore you can be able to hire more police officers and maybe local police officers, so hopefully they don't want to leave the city to go work somewhere else. So it's a matter of all those particular pieces and how do you bring them together. It's about, again, looking at the systems in place, and after you look at the systems in place, what is working and what is not. Because if you don't look at the systems, then you can just kind of second guess it. And so for me, when I worked as an educator, as an administrator, I always look at the systems that are in place, and then after that, I make the changes necessary.
How can the mayor improve open communications between the council, public, and staff? Or do you believe this is a problem when an individual believes that the council is dysfunctional?
It is important that the mayor and the city manager have a good working relationship, and likewise, what's really the question? Is the council dysfunctional, or how do you communicate?
A combination of both. Do you think it's dysfunctional? And then how do you improve open communication? And will open communication solve the dysfunction?
Well, one of the things I learned is, as the mayor, if you want a well-run city, get a good city manager. So we do have a good city manager, and I think everyone should be encouraged by that. And really, if you understand city government, it's a council manager form of government. So the real key is how we, or when I was mayor, how we interacted with the city manager, and that sets everything up. The question is the council dysfunctional? I'm not there. Every council has its own dynamic. I do think it is fair to say, and I certainly hear it as I move throughout the community from all different kinds of folks, that there is concern about the council. You've got a police chief who alluded to politics when he left. You have numerous department heads, and job openings. You have a mayor who's not running for re-election, a council member who resigned. And I find this particularly interesting that the POA did not endorse a single incumbent. Now, those are certainly breadcrumbs for a source of concern. Whether or not this, so I will leave it to others to judge, but it would certainly indicate there's some basis for concern. However, I think the fundamental answer for communication is the council, the mayor, and the city manager working closely together. when that happens, I think things will work better.
I think it's important to have a good city council and mayor working together with the city manager. But I think that it's beyond the city manager. I think it's the staff that you have working beneath that, whatever other managers, and it's about how the workers feel and the different members of the unions feel. Because if you don't have all those pieces working together, then there's always going to be conflict. As far as the community, there's different members from different communities, and some of those members of a different community are going to react differently. Some kinder than others, some others that will attack the manager, police officers, council members, etc. But I think each council makes a decision to go or vote a certain way based on the demographics of those individuals that got elected. So it's always been about electing a candidate of choice. And those individuals, whether you're a council member or a mayor, and you're going to be elected, you gotta listen to your constituents. And your constituents may be saying, this is what we want you to do. And so therefore, they are following their constituents' wishes. And they all need to work together.
Is the city council dysfunctional? In my opinion, no, they're not. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, holding people accountable, and trying to make Salinas a better place to live. Things are changing, and with change comes the tough questions and the uncomfortable questions. So I think that's what's going on at the city council right now. Me, I look at myself as a consensus builder. I'm all about relationships, and as your mayor, I will work as a team to get things done and be a positive influence at the city council, in the community. And as far as our new city manager, Renee Mendez, I have a very good relationship with him, and I know that we will get along great and get things done for all of you.
It says, finally, Salinas has taken steps to protect renters and improve renters' rights. Please share why you know this is great progress.
Yes, I know that I've spoken to a lot of different people, and mostly a lot of them who are renters, and basically they're in favor of some type of rent control because, you know, it's like, was it about 3 or 4 years ago when I was helping at Virginia Road Boarding School, because I can do like 60, 70 days out of the year as an assistant principal. Or as a principal, and so a parent was crying because the rent was going to go from $1,500 to $2,000. And they told her, you know, next month is going to do this, if we pay or you leave. So I think that the council has made progress in terms of this area. It's a good step in the right direction, but I think we need to continue looking at that and see how we make the modifications are necessary, whatever is necessary to continue moving forward with helping the most needy.
Renters' rights. I think the city council is going into a positive direction. Half of Salinas are renters. Somebody has to be the voice of renters. I'm a renter at the end of the day. And most owners, property managers, they're good people, but being a realtor, I've been in some very hairy situations, and you know, where you could call them slumlords. And so when the owners aren't being responsible with their properties, sometimes government needs to step in and take charge, especially when the owners are giving a renter 1 week notice or 2 week notice. I mean, that's not right, you know, in my opinion. When you go out there and see people renting a closet, people renting storage sheds in the backyard, and it does happen. Trust me, it does happen. Somebody has to step up and represent these people. And if it's not going to be the owners, if it's not going to be the property managers, if they keep on upping the rent to live in those situations, that's unacceptable in my book. And so I think we're going in the right direction. Is everyone ever going to be happy? No. There's always going to be upset people, but I think the key is finding the balance in the middle. Thank you.
You know, given the fact that such a large percentage of the city does rent, it is important that the issue be addressed. And so one of the things I've always liked about Salinas, you know, I think we take care of business, but I also know we have a real streak of trying to do the right thing. So I understand what the council has done. And I would just simply throw in that at the end of the day, what it should be a reminder to us all is to be laser focused on how do we increase our housing supply. And I do think that it is important as things move along that the specifics are reviewed, because I think we all know from just even our own household how costs are rising. And so there are some concerns about costs. But the situations that are patently unfair, there are hardships. I think we want to be sensitive to that, even exploring things like rental assistance programs. So I'm glad Salinas is addressing the issue. I would just, should I have the opportunity to be reelected with my colleagues, I would want to say, hey, let's make sure we give this an appropriate review as well.
Next one's for you. I'm putting two police situations together. One is an issue that happened. A resident had an expensive camera taken. She called the police because she saw the guy with cameras the next day. But because the camera was less than $10,000, the police said they could not respond. That threshold is too high. Can that threshold be lower? And it runs into the next one is, could you be certain to fund the police at the 187 to 189 officers? Will the budget reflect the ability to do that?
We all know that we're low on police officers. We're down to 130. We need to improve that. We need to also hire more social workers and mental health workers and think outside the box in how we use our police department, you know, on the calls that they respond to. Should there be a threshold? No, we should be responding to all calls, in my opinion. But in order to do that, we need to hire more officers. I think as far as funding our police department, we need to, I'm in full support of our law enforcement, all law enforcement, the firefighters, but we need to make sure that they feel supported, make sure that they're fully trained, and make sure that the mayor and the city council have a personal relationship with them so they know that we're behind them 100%. And so, as your mayor, I will be in front of all police officers at briefing, letting them know that I have an open door policy for all officers, and just create that bonding with them.
Of course, it should be lower. I'm a fan of the broken window theory. You go right on top of the little things, and that helps mitigate the big things. So that's just simply not an acceptable amount to quote unquote be tolerated. As far as police officers, every single police chief I've talked to since I left office has said that the optimum number in a perfect world is 210. As I like to tell them, you are victims of overperforming. But the reality is, when I was the mayor, and this just happened to be the chronological reality, we were at 187 officers. Today we're budgeted for 159. Anecdotally, one of the things that apparently is verifiably true, there are more people on duty at Chick-fil-A than there are patrolling the city of Salinas. That's a problem, particularly for a growing city. So we do need to, this is why economic development is so important. We have to expand our tax base. so we have more resources to get at that problem. But we're really going to have a serious conversation as a community. If the right number is 210, we're nowhere near in position to fund that number. So what is the value we're going to place on a safe city, and how big a priority is that actually, if to the degree that personnel is a big part of that. And we have to work on retention, our Explorer program, grow our own locally, and we have to expand the pool of folks we go after. Not just the criminal justice major, but also the psychology major. Let's very much focus on recruiting.
I'm going to respond a little from the perspective of the principal. I try to spend a lot of time outside during recesses, visit the classrooms, even if it's a pop in, pop out for 30 seconds. Visit classes where I know that there are students that need a little more attention. We go and say, "Wow, you're doing such a great job today, great job." And so then you get calls like they need help, or in a particular room, or students are fighting over here, or kids are throwing food. So you gotta look at all those different pieces, and if you don't have a lot of help, people calling sick from the different areas that work at the school, so you gotta make sure that you're all over the place, and you gotta look at what's the more important pieces to that too at that time. You can always, as a parent that wants to talk to you, they're upset because of this, so can you get their number, tell them I'll get back to them. I give them all my time after 3 or 3:30. So, when we say that, it's the same thing with the police. I mean, we can say that they're not responding, but they might be responding to a murder, shooting, etc. So we have to look at that. In terms of more police officers, yes, we can say we need more police officers, but it goes back to looking at the institutionalized system that exists. How do we change it? Because if we don't change it, we're going to be talking about this 50 years from now, and unless the system change.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the wrap up, and it's in reverse order. So sorry, Ernesto, but you're on first. A 2-minute wrap up.
Thank you. Well, like I said, I'm funding my own campaign. I don't have a lot of money, but I've always been involved since I was, 14 or 15-year-old in politics growing up in Texas. Came here and got involved with a lot of political systems on different clubs. Served at different school districts with a late attorney to try to change the election system using the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Changed the city of Salinas from a 5-member council being elected at large to a 7-member, 6 council and 1 mayor, and the different school systems. So I've been involved quite a bit. Marcus Hartnell went to when he was going to be buried. Was in the high school board. I've always been involved, helped elect a lot of different elected officials to try to change the systems. And so I've always tried to look at what's there, and from the different angles and the different perspectives. We can talk about affordable housing, and I asked before, what is affordable housing? We can say, oh, well, I'm talking about affordable housing, but really, is it affordable housing for the people who live here, or the people that are going to come and buy the $1 million homes out of San Francisco, Sacramento, San Jose? So, we become bedroom community, so we can talk about affordable housing all we want, but it's not real. You may think it's real, but, we know people that talk about that. We can talk about safety, we can talk about trying to change systems, but the reality, my 3 big differences that I think we can't pay financial reform. I think we need to push return limits, and I think we need to change the signage rules in terms of the size of the signage, because we litter the whole city with these huge car signs and we use smaller signs. Thank you. I hope I changed one person's mind. Have a great rest of the night.
One of the things, I've talked about my mayoral experience, and I think that's important. The priority of expanding our tax base, creating economic opportunity, getting resources so we can deal with all the things we've heard about. Because one of the things we consistently heard throughout throughout the evening is that there are resource challenges to meet the expectations and really solve these problems. For the last several years, I've lived in a world of innovation and acceleration, and I've had really a front row seat in all the elements of the next generation economy throughout the state, the country, and the world. And I think that's important, and I'm prepared to bring those relationships to the city to see if we can optimize our chances of economic diversification, better paying jobs. The other thing that I think is important that we've heard, that it is important to be engaged with the community. Some of the big challenges like potholes, infrastructure, working with the state and the feds is important, but also so is working with the neighborhoods. I mean, one of the things that I think we should take a look at is perhaps our friends in Monterey have a good idea with neighborhood councils, that here's a problem, it's big, it's going to take a while, but on the other hand, we know you want short-term results. So let's involve the neighborhoods perhaps in solving that with, and now you're participating in the process of, we have X amount of resources, but at least we can make some progress that you're involved with. So I think community engagement is going to be real important, but I think it needs to be geared towards the results that people want. At the end of the day, and I've had the privilege of being the mayor before, ultimately, and you might imagine folks have asked me why you want to do it again. I just heard one too many stories of my son, my daughter, my grandkids, they left because they didn't really feel they had an opportunity here. I want to change that outcome.
So it's been an honor and privilege to speak to all of you tonight. We have a lot of work to do. We need to invest in all communities and neighborhoods. Bring back the Neighborhood Watch program. We need to invest in our youth, rec centers, parks, and activities. Kids don't have nothing to do here. And invest in our seniors. I keep on knocking on doors, and the number one thing is they want to have a pickleball tournament. And they even challenged me to a pickleball game. I am committed to town hall meetings throughout the year in Salinas in every single district, and not just during the campaign season. I think it's an embarrassment when people don't know who the mayor or their city council person is. I want to clean up our city. We're at a crossroads right now. There's 5 seats up for grabs right now, and we need to keep the momentum of the great work the city council is doing throughout the whole city. And we need to move forward, not backwards, a few decades backwards. We cannot afford that. You deserve better, and I'm a proven leader, and I want to be your mayor. I want to be the mayor so bad that when I am the mayor, I hope Dennis and Ernesto are on my team, because together we can create a better Salinas. Thank you.